Before you book your wedding venue, there are some key questions you need to ask, and we have an article with all of these key questions to ask your wedding venue on Hitched. But I'm here today at Pembroke Lodge with director Louise, who has worked in weddings all your life, is that right?
Yes, I have.
Since you were like 7 or something.
Yes.
Yeah, crazy. And we're going to be asking some of the key questions that couples really need to think about before they sign on that dotted line. So where do we start?
Well, first of all, if you have your heart set on a particular date, definitely make sure, first and foremost, the venue has that date available. Or if you're looking at a particular range, do they have lots of availability in that range? So if you're looking at a Saturday in the summer, make sure they have summer Saturday availability.
And how do you go about securing that date? Because I imagine a lot of people would ask, can I just pencil that in?
Well, so at Pembroke Lodge, we have a few key criteria. So you'd need to come in for a viewing because we think it's really important that you see the space yourself and can meet some members of the team. And then after that, if you were happy, you'd need to complete the booking form, the terms and conditions, and pay the hire fee.
And what kind of things are included in that cost when couples come to book? Because presumably there are a few different factors they have to think about.
There are. It really would depend on the venue. All venues, of course, are very different. At Pembroke Lodge, we are pretty straightforward in that we do literally have the hire fee, and then we also just have the catering cost per person. Everything, the chairs, tables, cutlery, crockery, everything's included, sound, lighting. Not all venues do that though. Some of them have a different tiered system.
So it's really important to ask your venue, like, what is included in these costs and how is it broken down?
Yes, also VAT. Do they include VAT or not? Are there any surcharges, any optional extra charges? Do they have a service charge that they add? All of these questions are really important.
You need this broken down before you sign on that
Yes.
dotted line. What other things do couples need to think about before they're booking?
So if they have any non-negotiables, I'd say prior to coming in for a viewing, they need to check with the venue that they can accommodate them.
What kind of things, what non-negotiables have you encountered in your time?
So horse and carriage, if you want a horse and carriage to bring you to the venue, then definitely check the venue can accommodate that. If you want your dog to be present during a wedding ceremony, make sure the venue can allow that. Fireworks, confetti, what types of confetti they do and don't allow.
Do you have many dogs at weddings here at Pembroke?
We do occasionally. Yes, we do have a few little dogs running down the aisle.
And what about in terms of thinking of guests? What do couples need to think about here?
So to check the venue's accessible, if they need an accessible venue, make sure that all their guests can get here easily. Also the minimum and maximum capacities. So check if there is a minimum guest number, because quite a lot of venues do have that in place. If that includes children is another one, because a lot of them work as they only count for adult guests as well, and what the requirement is. So here it's a set number of adults for the 3-course meal.
And then when it comes to the ceremony, what sort of things should they be thinking about? Because I imagine that varies quite a lot as well.
So now obviously the rules have changed fairly recently. So now all venues, if they have an indoor ceremony licence, can also hold an outdoor ceremony, of course, if they have that space available. What are the minimum numbers and the maximum numbers for the ceremony, and do they differ for the meal and then for the evening as well?
And if you have your heart set on an outdoor wedding ceremony, presumably there are a few things you need to check with your venue about this.
Yes, so probably the main one is what's the backup plan?
Yes.
Being in the great British weather.
Yes.
Do they have a plan B option? What is it? And are you happy with it?
Yes, as we discussed this, it is actually pouring with rain outside.
Yes.
So it's very prudent to think about that. Well, thank you so much for running through some of those key questions and for hosting us at Pembroke Lodge today.
Thank you very much for coming.